What's up, wall fans, common sensors, podcast consumers, and of course, social media world? Welcome to the video feed for episode 33 of Common Sense Sundays with Go Tell It to the Wall. I'm, of course, your favorite podcast host, the one and only Sean O'Rourke, and we've got an action-packed show for you today. Lots of common sense to get through, and obviously some current stuff that we're going to unpack, and some interesting digital trends that are kind of going on right now, and we have a great, absolutely great positive news story for all of you that you may have heard about, but we need more of it in the world, and we're going to feature it as our positive news story this week. That being said, we got a lot of stuff to get into, so let's get into it.
Who 1, 2, 3, go tell it to the wall. Tell it to the wall. Go tell it to the wall. Tell it to the wall.
All right, wall fans, common sensors, podcast consumers. Welcome to episode 33 of Common Sense Sundays with Go Tell It to the Wall. I am, of course, your absolute favorite podcast host, the one and only Sean O'Rourke. Got a lot of great stuff for you this week. Lots of common sense. I know a lot of you out there, especially in the United States, but really around the world, because I've seen these posts from other people around the world. There was a certain sense of relief this past week, almost as if a large orange boulder was lifted off of all of us. I don't want to spend a bunch of time talking about it, but I do want to recognize that real quick because it was quite a day for many of us around the country. And regardless of where you fall on the political spectrum, it's fantastic. Me as the father of a daughter, to see female representation in the higher branches of government. Finally, we're seeing this. Regardless of which side of the aisle you fall on, that is something to see. It's something to be proud of, especially if you are a female, if you have daughters at home. But really, even if you don't, you should be happy about these things. It's inclusivity. We're finally crossing certain bridges that we've needed to cross for a long time. And in fact, the last thing I'll say on that in particular is go through and look at the timeline. There's a timeline that's been floating around that shows literally, like, at points in history via the vice presidents throughout our history, where women couldn't even vote, women couldn't have a checking account, things like this. And now we're at a point where our vice president in the United States is a female, which is just fantastic. Regardless of the side of the aisle you fall on, it's something to see and something to be proud of. That's just how it is. You can argue it all you want. Send me the hate mail. I don't care. All right. As we move along, we always kick things off with our social plugs. You can keep up with us during episodes, after episodes, for episodes, whenever you so please. And you can do that in multiple locations. One of those would be facebook.com/Go Tell It to the Wall. That is our official Facebook page. Make sure you like that page and check back often for all kinds of updates, new episodes, new photos, new blog posts, new videos, all that stuff. You're going to all be on Facebook for the most part. And of course, our YouTube channel. Head over to YouTube, search Go Tell It to the Wall, subscribe to our channel. You're going to find all our beer reviews, all of our Mental Health Monday playlists, all of our parenting playlists, all that good stuff is all featured on YouTube, so make sure you are subscribed on YouTube. And, of course, my own personal Instagram account, which is at SoCalSean. That's right, SoCalSean, SoCalSean on Instagram. Follow me. Trying to be more active on Instagram and have been, and that's good. And so lots of good stuff on there. And really not even just pertaining to Go Tell It to the Wall, but people that we kind of partner with and like to promote their stuff, whether it's artists, musicians, anything along those lines. You're going to see a lot of that through the SoCalSean Instagram account as well. And, of course, most importantly would be our website, SeanO'RourkeLive.com. That's right, SeanO'RourkeLive.com. Make sure you bookmark that one. That's going to be your one-stop shop for everything I just mentioned, as well as things you won't find anywhere else. Certain blog posts, certain photos, all live exclusively on SeanO'RourkeLive.com. And you're also going to find a link to our Patreon campaign. Please help us out if you have the means to do so. Every dollar helps to keep this studio running, bring in new equipment, new guests, whatever it might be. So help us out on Patreon if you have the means to do so. And, of course, merch. You can link directly to our merch website through SeanO'RourkeLive.com and pick up some Go Tell It to the Wall common sense merchandise for yourself. T-shirts, glasses. No, not like glasses. There's like mugs and a wine cup, and I think there's a pillow. There's all kinds of crazy stuff up there. Sweatshirts, T-shirts. So make sure you check out the merch page. Get yourself some Go Tell It to the Wall merch. We've had some wild weather here in Southern California. I was actually weirdly disappointed yesterday. We were supposed to have a ton of rain, and it was funny. I got up in the morning. There had been like a little bit of rain. I was like looking around, like, all right, where's the rain? And, you know, if The joke and the stereotype is somewhat true about Southern California. It starts to rain and everyone loses their mind. Oh my God, it's raining, especially when it's the first big storm of the season, or in this case, the first big winter storm. We've been getting down into the 40s at night here in Los Angeles. It's kind of wild, but I'm still disappointed because there wasn't near as much rain as they were preparing us to have, and I was like, come on, I could use the rain. My plants need to be watered here. Let's clear out the atmosphere a little. Keep people inside even more because they're still going outside and doing things. So more of that coming. And as you can see, if you're watching the video feed, I am actually able to wear a sweatshirt in the studio for this particular Common Sense Sunday. We had that weird little heat wave beginning of the year, and it was just too hot to even wear a sweatshirt. So I'm happy because I've been sitting on this Less Than Jake sweatshirt that I'm wearing since December when it came. I ordered this thing months and months ago. It was all pre-order with the album that came out. Oh, and that reminds me of something. I'll say that now. Came out with the album that came out, and I haven't been able to wear it yet. On a complete tangented side note there, a funny thing happened. It should have been parenting, but I'm going to say it now so I don't forget. A funny thing happened. We're sitting eating dinner Friday night, I think it was. And my daughter is definitely, and if you've listened to the podcast, she's a huge Interrupters fan, huge Bomb Pops fan. But she's getting into music and recognizing certain, music, particularly of mine. And so Friday night, we're sitting having dinner, and I have Less Than Jake playing. We've got the newest album, Silver Linings, playing as we're having dinner. And one song in particular comes on, and she goes, "Hey, Daddy, this was on the Less Than Jake live stream. This is a new," and she says, "This is a new song from the live stream." And I said, "You are absolutely right. They played this song on the live stream that we watched back in December with their album release." And I was very happy to hear that, not just because I am a big Less Than Jake fan, but just really any music. It's amazing to see any kids, but especially your own kid, kind of gravitate towards something and start to recognize and remember those particular things, whether it's music, books, movies, television, whatever it might be. It's really amazing to see that. So it was very much a proud father moment for me, definitely. Just an FYI, we are 2 weeks away from it. I'm kind of half keeping an eye on the score of the first game here in football, but it is Conference Championship Sunday. For those of you not familiar with football, that means after today, we will be 2 weeks. 2 weeks from today will be the Super Bowl. It was interesting because I was thinking about it, and I told my wife, I was like, because we usually either go to a party. It's rare that we don't go to. In fact, our on-air producers, Chris and Bridget, usually throw the annual Super Bowl party, but obviously not doing that this year. And it was funny because I was like, do I skip the show for Super Bowl Sunday? And I went, no, because the Super Bowl is always on a Sunday, and up until beginning of the pandemic, we were recording on Thursdays. So no episode for Super Bowl Sunday, and it's really just me being greedy. I'm not even super concerned about the game. I like to sit and enjoy and watch the game, but I told my wife, I was like, we're just going to make a bunch of junk food, sit and watch the game, watch commercials. I don't know. There's some kind of halftime show. It's not going to be at the actual. I don't even know if it's at the actual stadium, but there's some interesting things coming out of that as well. Even for those of you that aren't big football fans, most people are familiar with the Super Bowl and certain things that happen around the Super Bowl, not just the game and the commercials, but certain things. And we're going to unpack a little bit of that. But just an FYI to everybody, 2 weeks from today, don't be looking for a new show. There will not be one. I'm going to sit and enjoy eating some junk food and watching the game with my wife and daughter. That's going to be our entire day. Super Bowl Sunday. It's just junk food and a Super Bowl game. And then the next day I'll add some extra weight so I can take off all that the pounds that I was putting on for Super Bowl Sunday. All right, digital trends. We got some interesting digital trends this week. Now this one in particular could have gone anywhere, kind of even under common sense, but I left it in digital trends because it's blowing up on the digital platforms right now. We all know who Dr. Birx is. I'm not even going to give her, I can't even remember her official title, but she was working heavily on COVID and everything else closely with the Trump administration. Well, she came out I think just today or maybe yesterday and had said that she was producing graphs, information about COVID and the outbreaks and the numbers and everything else, and was handing them over to the White House. And then apparently the stuff that was being presented by the White House were not the same charts and documents that she had given to the administration to present to the general public. So here's the thing. Bottom line, Trump doctored his own graphs when it came to the COVID outbreak. Who knows exactly what the purpose of that was, to make it look better than it was or whatever. I don't even care at this point. The reason this one is sticking out to me is a couple of things. Only now is she coming forward. This was happening for months. But now that he's no longer president, she's coming forward. It's the same thing with a lot of politicians out there. Suddenly, now that they don't have to deal with his wrath, on a daily basis, suddenly they're speaking out. And they're like, oh, no, he's terrible. And it's like, it's too little too late. It's too little too late at this point. And really, where this really gets to me is the whole thing with that administration and fake news, which has bothered me from the beginning of that administration, because there's a whole campaign to kill journalists and all this stuff. And it's like, that's okay. I'm not a journalist, but I am a broadcaster. I've worked in media my entire career. I have worked in media whether it was marketing for film, television, or whether it was broadcasting, or doing live events with media. I've been in media my entire life. So this fake news stuff has always incredibly bothered me. But then we're seeing here a black and white example of how he's calling everyone else fake news, but he's actually putting out the fake news. It's right the fuck there. He's the one putting out the fake news. That's what gets me the most on this. Not just the fact that people didn't have the balls, and excuse my over masculine wording there, but people didn't have the balls to come forward when he was actually sitting there in the White House. And now we're supposed to praise them. Oh, thanks for letting us know now. Honest to God. You get no credit here, Dr. Birx. None whatsoever. And everyone else sitting out there that spouted fake news and everything, anytime something bad came out against the Orange Menace, yeah, sit the fuck down. Because here is your fake news. Sit down. Election fraud, that's all the fake news. Sit down. I'm sick of it. I'm telling you, I'm so sick of it. Sorry, I didn't mean to get that fired up this early in the episode, but we're going to move along to hashtag zero COVID. Yeah, hashtag zero COVID. That has nothing to do with the United States of America, because we are not doing well here as far as COVID, nor is many other parts of the world. However, there's a country that's doing fantastic and has been doing fantastic for months. That would be New Zealand. In fact, New Zealand has been COVID-free for 8 months. 8 months. They are actually having concerts and gatherings and sporting events. They're doing all the things. They're living normal life. They are still wearing masks, and they are distancing when appropriate. But they have not had new cases of COVID in New Zealand for 8 months. 8 months. They've had it under control. Zero COVID. Hashtag zero COVID. It's crazy to see how normal it is there, really. I was looking at some photos, and people are tweeting and posting, and it's like, holy shit. I'm 10 months or however, I'm almost a year into pretty much being stuck in my house. Last time I was really, outside of that little zoo trip for my kid's birthday, socially distanced zoo trip, the last time I was kind of out of the house was March 13th to go out and have a bite to eat, and then March 14th was the last time I got a haircut at a stylist, which means the top of this hair, for anyone watching on the video, this is getting close to a year of growth from the kind of the shorter length I would keep on my head. The sides, obviously, this is what I do now. I'm no longer going to go pay to get a haircut. I bought my clippers. My wife does it. She's going to cut it again in 2 weeks, and every 3-4 weeks I get a little haircut. But the top, that's going to be a year of growth, I think, before I even attempt to cut the top, or my wife does. I'm not attempting it. My wife, I'll be like, all right, do see what you can do with it. And I'm not saying my wife can't do it. She's not a hairstylist. She's she learned how to do this part of the hair just out of necessity. Hashtag stay at home. This is, of course, trending because of the rising numbers. And the reason I bring this one up, hashtag stay at home, is because we all know you should be staying at home. I've been saying this ever since we started Common Sense Sundays months ago. You should be at home. But I bring this up because I encourage you, especially if you're someone that's like, oh, this is not a big deal and all this other stuff. If you're one of those people, I encourage you to go look at some of the healthcare workers that have posted their testimonials. And especially if you think this is not as big a deal as it is, go watch those. It's required viewing for anyone that doesn't think it's serious, because you can't watch those and still walk away thinking like, no, this is no big deal. It's amazing. Healthcare, we've always known healthcare workers were heroes, but holy Jesus Christ, for this past year, it's another level. It's another level. So please check out that hashtag stay at home. And especially, I doubt you're listening to this podcast, but especially if you're someone that has downplayed the seriousness of COVID and the pandemic over the past year. It's amazing. We're close to a year. It was March. And we're already a year into knowing about COVID and the coronavirus. In fact, I think a year ago right now, I would have to look at the calendar, or maybe she was just getting back. My wife was actually in China just about a year ago. I'm looking at the date on my computer here. And so we knew about it, but then it got serious in March. I mean, we've been locked down since March. I know that. And now we're coming full circle on all the COVID birthdays. my sis Laura, I said to her once ago, I was like, you're going to get a COVID birthday too, because her birthday's in February. We had a normal celebration for her birthday last year. No, she's going to get a COVID birthday too. Everybody gets a COVID birthday. That's where we're at. Same, my cousin Kevin had his birthday the other day, and it's like COVID birthdays all around here, you know. It's not just in 2020. We had the whole year calendar of the COVID birthdays. My wife's probably going to get 2 of them, for the love of God. She's March. Hers was like right after COVID hit, and we're like, oh, no, nope, still here. So hashtag stay the fuck home, please. Just, if nothing else, for the healthcare workers and the overcrowded hospitals. It's really what it is, what it's all about. All right, this one I'm loving. Hashtag Seth Rogen loves Ted Cruz. If you're on Twitter at all, or you follow Seth Rogen, you've seen there's been some back and forth between Seth Rogen and Ted Cruz. And if anyone wants to come at me with like, oh, he's an actor, he doesn't know anything about politics, go look at his testimonials on Capitol Hill a few years ago. He's actually gone to the Capitol and fought for certain things that he believes in this country. I'm not going to get into details on that stuff, but he deserves very much praise for the work he's done outside of just his acting and writing and directing talent. But they've been going back and forth. So, of course, the conservative side of things decided to create this hashtag, Seth Rogen loves Ted Cruz, and that's floating around the internet right now. Well, here's the thing. Conservatives, for some reason, have a problem with spelling, and they couldn't even spell Seth Rogen's name correctly. So now we have an incorrectly spelled hashtag floating around Twitter and other social platforms because people can't spell. And of course, what is going to happen? What's going to happen with this? We all know what's going to happen with this. K-pop's going to take it over. They take over all those hashtags. They're like, F you, we're taking this hashtag. But this one, it blows my mind, because here's another just example of, I don't care what side of the aisle you fall on. It's mind-blowing to me that anyone can like Ted Cruz. Like, anybody can like Ted Cruz. It's crazy to me. I don't get it. The guy makes me want to puke. Almost as bad as the Orange Menace. It's mind-blowing to me that anyone can support that human being. It's just utterly crazy. And it's funny, seeing him, that was one thing. He had tweeted at Seth Rogen and said, oh, there are plenty of conservatives in Hollywood. They just don't speak up because they get bashed down by all. And it's like, no, we all know about the conservatives in Hollywood. They're very loud. We hear about them. You ever heard of a guy named James Woods? You know, Charles in Charge, for the love of God. And we all remember Clint Eastwood talking to a fucking empty chair. No. They're not stifled. There's just less of them, bottom line. It's coming out. And the other one was like, oh, Seth Rogen knows nothing about unions. The entertainment industry is run on unions. Everything is unionized in the entertainment industry, unless you're management, on staff with a particular studio or a company, you're unionized. I was not unionized. I wasn't in the union at Disney because I was management within a marketing division. But anything production wise it's union. It's union, for the love of God. I never actually joined the PGA, but that's something I could have joined years ago, and it's all union. The ineptitude from politicians is just astounding, and the fact that he gets any kind of support, I don't understand. Makes me want to puke. The guy makes me want to puke. Period. Plain and simple. All right, hashtag National Compliment Day. Apparently today is hashtag National Compliment Day. If we don't put a hashtag in front of it, it's not an actual national day. Still don't know who comes up with all these things, and as I've said before, I used to maintain a calendar, an annual calendar, telling people these are the national days and months and whatever else, and please go sell this from a marketing and ad sales standpoint. But I digress. With it being National Compliment Day, go ahead and give a compliment. But as I say with lots of these other national days and stuff, maybe just give a compliment every day of your life. Take a moment. It's not that hard. Give a compliment. Give it, text a friend, call a friend, give a compliment. Who, you're someone in your family that's in your house, give a compliment. Do it every day. Make a habit of that. And we'd all be in such a more positive place. It's not going to fix everything, but we'd all be in a much more positive place. And speaking of a positive place, we have our positive news for episode 33 of Common Sense Sundays. You've probably heard about this one. There was a cleaning woman in New York who worked at a luxury high-rise. If you're familiar with New York, these are those the really nice apartment buildings, not those little closets that you live in some areas in New York. The luxury high-rises, really nice apartments and studios and whatever else is in a particular luxury high-rise. So this cleaning woman, Rosa, had worked there for 20 years. 20 years. Because of the pandemic, she had been furloughed, but was still going into work every day with a very positive attitude, and was kind of like family to a lot of people in the building, which makes sense. 20 years. You end up getting to know someone real well, even if they're only in your apartment like once a week or whatever. You're going to get to know them real well. You're seeing them probably daily, just walking through whatever else. One of the tenants brought her into the building and showed her an empty apartment that she thought she was going to clean to be then shown and sold or leased. And as she was standing in there, they informed her that the apartment was hers, that a bunch of tenants of that building had gotten together and they had got her actually a 2-year lease on this massive luxury apartment. It's funny. 4 bedrooms, and which is one thing, but I looked at the square footage. I was like, that's bigger than my house. And I live in Los Angeles. I live in a very hot neighborhood of Los Angeles where $1 million house is bigger than my house. So good on you, people of that building. Well-deserved to Rosa, the cleaning lady. And we need more of this. We need more of this. Tenants banded together. Probably didn't make any particular individual living in that building struggle or anything. And you band together and you make life a little better for this woman who's done so much for your building and probably for your family and your apartment and everything else. We need more of this throughout the world. Really do. Really do. Speaking of living in $1 million neighborhood, that's my favorite thing about Highland Park, California here. It's like one of the hottest neighborhoods, not just in Los Angeles or California. It's one of the hottest neighborhoods like nationally. There's been articles in there like Highland Park on the up and up. That's why it's going to cost you about $1 million to have a. You can get a small house like around here for cheaper, but like my house ridiculously valued at $1 million. My entire street, it's like $1 million. I think ours went up to like 1.1 the other day. I am not super rich. We got in at the right time with real estate here in Highland Park. I've lived in Highland Park for 8 years, and my wife's lived here 10 years or 9. It's been a while. But the best example of Los Angeles real estate, especially here in Highland Park, is it's going to cost you $1 million to live in a house, but somebody will get shot about a block and a half away from your house. That's going to happen. Yeah, that happened here on Friday night. Oh, no, that happened like a week or two ago. Then there was a guy running like kind of up in the hills near my neighborhood with a gun. It's not funny. I only laugh because it's ridiculous that it costs you that much to live here. But you're going to deal with dudes running through with guns and police helicopters and chases and everything else. Los Angeles real estate. I like it here. I'm not worried. We're not talking about random shootings. It does have to do with certain territorial wars around the neighborhood, and they're tending not to mess with me. All right, COVID updates. It's still sad. Don't get me wrong. It's just I'm not scared for my life necessarily. Just walking somewhere in daylight. COVID updates. NBA schedule. I want to talk about the NBA schedule. I know most people are not necessarily interested in sports. And first off, we've had so many NBA games postponed because of COVID outbreaks. In fact, like one basketball team hadn't played for a couple weeks, I think, just like 2 weeks or something like that. But the interesting thing I found with this is the NBA this year, because of COVID and everything else, had actually had actually changed travel arrangements and schedules and stuff. And so what they did was a lot of teams, what they're doing is they're flying to a city. Because they're not in the bubble like they were for last season. They're flying to a city, they're playing a team, and then like the next day or 2 days later, they're playing that same team, as opposed to, and now bear with me, please, 'cause those of you that don't know much about NBA scheduling. Like before, they would travel to a city, play a couple days later, travel to a city, play a couple days later. Now they're knocking out more games with less travel. And I think this is obviously incredibly smart with the pandemic and with COVID and trying to minimize any kind of outbreaks or infections. But it got me thinking, just from another standpoint. Now, first of all, I'm a baseball fan. I love the MLB. I love professional baseball. And baseball has always been real good about their travel schedules. Now, it's a little bit different because baseball will play 3 days, boom, 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 games, in a city. Like, it's always been like that. But what they'll do is a lot of teams will stay in California as opposed to flying, different places. And basketball is mimicking that at least a little bit here. And like I said, it got me thinking about, could this be something just done in the future, even post-COVID and post-pandemic, when people can when people can go back to arenas and everything, and not just because we're doing it. They started this because of the safety of the pandemic, but it got me thinking about the less stress from travel on the players, and also the carbon footprint. Like, do we need to fly that much? Can you knock out a couple games? And if you can cut the trips down by like a third, that I imagine I'm not an environmentalist. I don't know enough about climate change to even talk about it, but I imagine that would make a big difference as far as the carbon footprint that the NBA currently puts out there, at least on a regular basis. Now it's diminished because they're traveling less and they have a few less games, but I think this would be a win-win for all. So I'll be really curious to see how this comes out even post-COVID, and it'll be interesting. Now, it's even more scheduling changes. Again, I know not everyone's necessarily interested in the NFL and football, but everyone knows what the Super Bowl is. And when it comes to the Super Bowl, we have this thing, like, it's a whole week of events leading up to the Super Bowl. The teams usually are there for a week to 10 days. They do a whole media day and everything else. And most of you have seen this media day stuff because that's fun even for people who aren't big-time football and sports fans, because you get these kids come out and they're cute and you get fun questions and everyone kind of has fun. You get the personality of the players. Well, now this year, because of COVID, the teams actually, instead of flying in like 10 days beforehand, can fly into the Super Bowl is being played in Tampa Bay. They can fly into Tampa Bay at most 2 days before the game, so the Friday before the game. Media day, it sounds like it's going to be done virtually, so I assume every player will be like sitting in their home or maybe even at their practice facility, what it might be, and doing these things, via Zoom, much like we've seen everything happening, interviews, even post-game interviews for those of you that watch sports. The media is not actually there. It's a dude sitting in front of a camera, and you can hear them asking questions like via Zoom instead of being in the room, which, anyone, even outside of sports, if you've been like a press conference, everyone's in the room, and that's not happening right now. It's all being done virtual. So it's going to be interesting. It's very different from previous years. I'll be curious to kind of see how it shakes out here, And as of this evening, we will know the teams in the game. I won't do it. I won't check the score. I'm hoping Green Bay wins this game. I told my wife earlier, I said, if Tom Brady goes to the fucking Super Bowl, I'm going to throw up. And I am. If you've been a fan of the podcast, you know why. Never been a Tom Brady fan. I just could have put up with him when he was helping my team win. All right, mental health. Let's talk a little bit about mental health. This one's been getting me lately, and I don't want to spend a ton of time on it, but I think it's important to just bring up and reiterate, and that would be compromising for others. Now, lately, that is very much in the political realm. Compromising for others. We don't talk about that, whatever it might be. And I'm not saying this means you should argue necessarily. What I do mean is don't compromise. Don't put up with other people spewing certain things, fake news and all this other stuff. And it's not, you don't want to let other people affect how things are happening for you, if that makes sense. So even if it's family, don't sacrifice your mental health. Know when you've hit your limit. Know when it's not the time to debate. And here's the thing. Nobody's going to change. You're not changing anyone's mind. If someone is still an Orange Menace supporter at this, there's nothing that's going to change their mind. Like, don't debate the Capitol riots, the terrorist attacks, none of it. Nothing's going to change their mind. So keep that in mind. Don't sacrifice for that, and don't use your energy when you know nothing good is going to come of it. because that's what's really going to affect your mental health. It does for me. I have to constantly remind myself of this. Now, obviously, I don't have as much interactions directly with people right now, but it's even just on social media. Just go ahead and scroll past that. Having an argument, needing to put your 2 cents, sometimes it's not worth the effect it's going to have on your mental health. And from a political standpoint, remember, we are talking about the party of fuck your feelings for the past 4 years. So you shouldn't have to worry about their feelings. And just remove yourself. This really goes for anything. It's learning to take that breath. This is something I work on this almost daily. And I will say to my wife or even my daughter, when things are going crazy, I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna step outside for a second and I'll go stand. I'm gonna take a breath. You take a breath, and then we'll take a minute. We'll come back and then we'll discuss this further. I do this with my kid, because she'll argue with me like the other day. Would you like macaroni and cheese or do you want a sandwich for lunch? She's like, I want the wheel mac and cheese, and it's not important, but it's a different kind of mac and cheese than like the box mac and cheese. And I was like, no, we're out of that. You can have this mac and cheese. And she starts fighting with me on it. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go out here for a minute. Let's both take a breath. And then you think about it, because those are your two options. And when I come back, I would like you to let me know what you want. So I went and I stood on my porch, and she's just on the other side of the screen door thing. And at this point she's 4, she's fine, for a minute. And as soon I stand there for less than a minute, I come walking back in and she goes, okay, Daddy, I would like mac and cheese. And I said, okay. So instead of continuing that argument, let's take a breath and let's figure out where we want to go from here. And that's where we were. And it worked out really well. And it's just, that's a good just lesson in general, whether it's politics or really anything. So arguing over lunch, just take a step back. Take a breath, and then go back to it. It's gonna be so much better for your mental health, just in general. It really is. All right, let's talk a little bit of parenting. Oh, I had some fun this past week. Some friends of ours, my wife works with them it's like we're intertwined, very much. Some friends of ours, and then they have a daughter. About the same age as Zoe, just like a couple months older, and they are very good friends. Obviously, they haven't been able to play much with the pandemic, but they'll get on the phone and do some virtual stuff. So this friend of ours' daughter decided that she wanted to have an hour of the day that was just for happiness. And it was funny because I'm talking to the mother. My wife and I are talking to the mother, and she goes, so she basically said she wanted to have a happy hour. And she's like, we're gonna do it. So they set up like a Zoom happy hour. For parents, and I think there was some people without kids on there, but quite a few people with kids, and we all jumped on there, and they're doing some fun little games and stuff, and I'm enjoying a nice little whiskey. My wife was still working in the studio, and I thought this was a great thing, except that there's like tons, and there was quite a few people on this, maybe like 20 people on the Zoom thing, and I'm trying to position my computer, and 4-year-olds, it just depends on their mood. They're like, I don't want to, oh, no, now I do want to be on. No, why can't I talk? And it's like, oh, my God. And my kid's going a little bit nuts. And I was definitely doing a lot of I'm on camera, and I was doing a lot of giving the look, and I'd have to back out of frame, a little bit of that. And so it was interesting, to say the least. I love the idea. I think there's going to be more of these. And especially if I can have a drink while I'm hanging out, that's always a plus. That's why I love kid-friendly breweries. Oh, so much. There's a lot of them around LA. Like they'll put out games and stuff for the kids, and you're like, I can sit here and have a tasty beer, and they'll bring me some food, and my kid can sit here and play. Oh, give me that all day. I want to say, I know every single parent out there can relate, unless your kid is not talking yet or has just started talking, and that would be the questions. Oh Lord, and I've gotten used to it, where I'm like, yes, and I will tell you, like a Google or an Amazon, like the Alexa or whatever, any of those are gonna work, where you're just when they're asking you questions, you're like, I don't know, how far away is the moon? I don't know, but it's good to have that, because you can just ask, and you're like, that's the answer. It's becoming a little bit of not like a big problem. It's become a bit of a problem when watching movies. Now, I've gotten used to it with movies that I've seen before, maybe she hasn't seen, or she even will ask, like, when she knows the answer to. She's like, where's Rapunzel? I'm like, you've seen this movie 15 times. You know where Rapunzel is. She's going to be back in a second. But it's becoming a bit of a problem on movies that I have not seen. So, like, last night, for example, we had movie night, and we watched Brave, which weirdly I hadn't seen, which is funny. And we're sitting at dinner, and we're like, oh, which movie you want to watch? And she settled on Brave. She's heard the music from Brave. Had never seen it. I was like, I've never seen it. It was funny because I turned to my wife. I was like, I worked on some marketing for Brave when I was at Disney, but I never actually watched the movie. And I did. I worked on a few marketing programs for Brave. But like I said, hadn't seen it. So they start the movie, and I missed the first like 10 minutes because I had a couple things to do. I go sit down, and my 4-year-old just asking me where's blah blah, what's blah blah, and I'm used to this. However, because I haven't seen the movie, and it's not so much like, hey, I'm trying to follow the plot. It's partly like, okay, but I'm not going to be able to answer your question unless I see what's going on. She's like, where are they going? Let's watch and see where they're going, because I don't know. I don't know. And I'll tell you, here's a little bit of a spoiler alert if you're like way behind on Disney movies and don't want to have Brave spoiled. Just turn it down for like 10 seconds. I will tell you, I swear, at least 20 times she asked me, why is she a bear? Like, but you watched why she's a bear. And I'm answering that question over and over again. So Jesus Christ, the question. I don't mind it. I love the curiosity, but I found that when I'm like, you're asking me, or she's asking me a question. I'm like, I could have answered that, but you asked me over them answering it for you. It's just funny. Kids, questions. Ugh. And I do love the endless loop of questions. Or not like endless loop. Like, so we have an air purifier, to get the dust out of the air. One of those things. She's like, what's an air purifier do? Or no, air filter. I was like, it filters the air. These are my favorites. And she doesn't know what to say back to that. She's just like, oh, okay. Like, so use that one if it's literally like, it's exactly what it does. What's a ceiling fan do? It's a fan on the ceiling. I don't know. That wasn't the best example, but you get my drift on that one. That's the way to do it. I also got my first real "oh daddy" the other night because she does the sweet "oh daddy" like "oh daddy," but then there was the like I'm making a dad joke, and she turns to me at dinner. She goes, "oh daddy," and it was the like "oh I'm pandering to your silly joke." It's like, yep, here's the next 14 years of my life at least, probably more than that. Is "oh daddy." All right, let's move on to some common sense. I need a little bit of just water in the mug this week. Keeping it simple. Probably will have a nice beer later as I watch the football game. Weirdly cheering for the Bills. I don't mind the Chiefs, but long-suffering franchise. Anyone familiar with the NFL? And we talked about that story last week where the Bills fans were like, here's money for your charity. Like, oh, well, you guys probably deserve to go to the Super Bowl here. Enjoy the season. All right, T-shirts and slipper ads. Remember the $100 sweatpants I was talking about? Well, for some reason, the social platforms really want me to buy expensive slippers and T-shirts. My favorite is every single T-shirt ad is like, T-shirts that actually fit. And I'm like, do you guys really have this much trouble? And the thing is, for me, like, I won't say any T-shirt will fit anybody, but if you're an adult at this point in your life, you've probably found a T-shirt that fits decently. I'm a bit of a funky body type because I'm very tall, but my shoulders are not very broad. So I run into a length, but I've found over the years which T-shirts are going to fit correctly for that length, and they also don't cost me like $80. I see these ads that are like, just $80, like, for a T-shirt? Like, I get mad when I got to pay $25 for a Rancid T-shirt because they overprice them on Kings Road. Like, no, $80. And the slippers, $100 slippers. Get the fuck out of here, $100 slippers. I told the story about the Vans slippers. I got my hands on Vans, $45. Vans with like comfy cush technology, so good. $100 slippers. That's ridiculous. And I don't understand why I'm getting because I bought some Vans slippers. They're like, here's these funky. Like, no, I don't need this. I don't know where the T-shirts stuff is from. Like, I buy band T-shirts and I buy stupid rad T-shirts and zombie teeth clothing T-shirts. Like, why are you trying to sell me weird tailored T-shirts? Like do you? But no, $80 T-shirts, $100 slippers. Jesus. All right, I want to talk politics just for a sec. Not important politics, but I want I want people to understand the differences here. So, 4 years ago, a certain orange individual was inaugurated, and for 4 years we saw flags and hats and all this other stuff. It was like and I've talked about this before when it comes to politics. But, a lot of people they're supporting Trump like it's supporting a sports team, where it's like other people are losing their rights and you just think it's fun to cheer for a sports team. But we're seeing it now because here's so many people still waving Trump flags and hats, and they did it for 4 years and everything else. I know some people are doing this for the current administration where they're like, oh, Biden hat or whatever. It's nowhere near that. I'm telling you, the day after the inauguration, I'm scrolling through feeds, and even people that are very, very supportive of the Democratic Party, very, very left-leaning, even moderates were immediately going in on Biden. Like, all right, what are you going to do now? What are you going to do? That's the difference between the sides, is fucking hats and flags. Like, that's what's annoying to a lot of people. And let me get this straight with all of you out there. I am on neither side. Neither side. I am an independent. I've never been a Democrat in my life. I've been a Democrat for a day so I could vote for Bernie in the primary, because in California you can change your affiliation for just a vote for a particular party primary. But I've never been a Democrat or Republican, for the love of God. Never been either one. This is just what I'm seeing. Hold everybody accountable. Hold them accountable. That's where it comes from. That's from someone on neither side of the aisle. Neither side. The politician I follow and support the most is Bernie. He's an independent. Not on either side, for the love of God. Oh, and the clutching pearls. Oh, the pearl clutching the past few days. Over a watch. Have you guys seen this? It's funny. The other day I was like, why is Rolex trending on? Oh, that's why. Because Biden wore like a $1,400 stainless steel Rolex. Stainless steel, not even a white gold platinum. Stainless steel. We're not even talking about that expensive of a watch. I'm not a big watch guy, but I could probably afford to get myself one of those Rolexes I don't need it, but everyone's getting in on him. Like, oh, what's with this expensive watch? Like, really? And again, here's the hypocrisy from the other side. Here's the hypocrisy. We're talking about, because obviously it's one side that's giving him a real hard time about this, about wearing a Rolex. It's a watch. It's a watch. So many people around the world own a Rolex. Like, calm the hell down. But we're talking about the side of the aisle, the party, that elected a guy because he was a wealthy businessman. He was rich. That was a big part of the appeal for him. The extra ridiculous hypocrisy is here. There were multiple photos of the Orange Menace in the Oval Office wearing a very expensive watch, like $14,000 watch, not $1,400, $14,000. Crickets. Not a word about that. It's common sense. Hypocrisy. It's all it is just hypocrisy. It's the goddamn tan suit all over again. They got nothing else to do, so they're gonna, it's an expensive watch. Dude, like, seriously. Dude's 78. If you're 78 years old and you want to have a fucking Rolex, have a fucking Rolex. It just... I'm gonna get a Rolex now just to own the conservatives, wearing his Rolex to own the Republicans, because that's something they would say. Own the libs. Fuck your feelings. God, it's just like it's so common sense and black and white to me. That's what I mean. Like, no, you can argue about policy and your opinions and everything. Like, you're just being hypocritical at this point. Oh. Speaking of common sense, man, this was a great day. We don't eat out much at all. The last time we ate out was my birthday. We got some Max City barbecue here in I think it's Eagle Rock, technically. Eagle Rock or Highland Park, not far from here. I love me some barbecue. So the other day, my wife was talking to a coworker who lives not far from us, and we just recently got a Popeyes down the street. It's like a half mile away, and hadn't gotten out to try it yet. And I somewhat grew up with Popeyes. That was one of my memories from living in Miami was Popeyes. But when I was a kid, Popeyes was the spicy chicken. Like, we either got, KFC or the spicy chicken. And in Chicago, it was Church's. But I'm very familiar with Popeyes. And since she goes, and her coworker was like, it's so good, I had to pull my car over and eat it and then drive home. And the guy, like, he lives a little further than we do, maybe 2 miles. I was like, okay. And so she had it in her. She goes, I'm not working late tonight. Should we order Popeyes and go pick it up? I said, yup, let's do that. So we got like a chicken strip family meal, and had to get the mild because I got a 4-year-old home who really doesn't like spiciness. So I was like, okay, which I would have rather had the spicy ones, but I said, okay, get one of the chicken sandwiches. I got to try the chicken sandwich. Even if we split it, I got to try a chicken sandwich. She brings home a chicken sandwich. I'm one bite into the chicken sandwich. I didn't even get the bun yet, and I went, I've had lots of Chick-fil-A in my life, and I've had lots of Popeyes, but I don't think they had that sandwich back then. But this is kind of a new thing. Got the spicy one, and I don't even understand how there's a debate between Chick-fil-A and Popeyes. The Popeye, it's worlds better, and on top of that, you don't have to support bigotry and hate by giving Chick-fil-A money. So highly recommend the Popeyes chicken sandwich. I'll be having another one of those when next chance I get, really. I avoid all the fast food for the most part, but there are some exceptions. In-N-Out's an exception. Gotta have some In-N-Out now and then. And obviously, like, not fast food chains, but like, I got a couple Mexican taco places that I'm like, nope, and that's not going away. And I think Popeyes is going to get kind of grandfathered in, and like, every once in a while I'm going to have me a spicy chicken sandwich from Popeyes, because, whoa. Like, I woke up the next morning thinking about it. I was like, wow, that sandwich was so good. So if you like southern chicken sandwiches, and they have a regular one that's not spicy, but oh god, I love spicy. Like, I'm just like, give it to me, spicy. I put like everything. My wife yells at me because I've now started putting hot sauce on mashed potatoes. Don't knock it till you've tried it. Let me just tell you that. All right, we got a couple of entertainment news things here that I just want to run through, and then we're gonna finish up because we are way over time this week, and I knew that was gonna happen just because it always happens, and I don't know why I'm always shocked when it does happen. All right. Hank Aaron, we lost one of the greatest baseball players of all time this past week. Rest in peace to Hank Aaron. A lot of people know that name because he, as far as I'm concerned, he still is the record holder for career home runs. Barry Bonds obtained that record by cheating, and I am not very, please don't send me the stare like, oh, everyone, and it's like, no, maybe. I'm not real crazy on the whole steroids and Hall of Fame thing. Barry Bonds is a whole nother exception. When your forehead ends up being the size of a Buick, that's getting a little out of hand. But I digress. Hank Aaron, in my opinion, in the opinion of many other sports people out there, the career home run leader. But what a lot of people don't realize is you think of Jackie Robinson as the first African-American to come into Major League Baseball, and he was. He paved the way for many others, including Hank Aaron. But Hank Aaron dealt with much of the same adversity and racism when he first came into the league. He came into the league just a few years after Jackie Robinson had played in the Negro Leagues, for those of you familiar with baseball. That was the segregated league where African Americans, that was the only league they could play in until Major League Baseball was integrated. He dealt with a lot of that same racism and prejudice as well. And if you don't know much about Hank Aaron, I encourage you to just go watch an interview with him because not only a fantastic baseball player who had to go through adversity, but just a fantastic human being. And to hear many media people and broadcasters and sportscasters talk about Hank Aaron over the past week was really amazing to think of the work he did outside of a baseball field and the respect that he commanded, and not because he was a powerful individual, but the respect that he commanded because he was such a compassionate and caring person who whenever you talk to someone that met him, they said it felt like he genuinely cared about what you had going on in your life, which is, to me, that's a huge thing. I've always said that about celebs, and gives me more respect for them when I run into famous people, that are like that have respect, for others. I'm not saying that people are disrespectful, but I run into I've run into celebs that I've met a few times, and they come and before I can even say anything to them, or they say anything about themselves, they're like, oh, how's the family, and I'm like, thanks, you remember. Like Billy Ray Cyrus was a great example of that years ago. I'm in the green room for a Miley Cyrus concert, at Hollywood and Highland. We're in the green room upstairs, and I see Billy Ray Cyrus, and I'm like, oh, there's Billy Ray. And I'm standing there as one of the guys that was working on my crew, and Billy Ray walks up. He's like, I just want to thank you guys for everything you're doing right now for Miley. And I was like, oh, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. Can I also take a photo with you now that you've walked up to me? So, like, a photo, you gotta. I'm not a country fan, but it's Billy Ray Cyrus, and respect to him. But those are the kind of celebs that I just tend to have a little more respect for. You can tell that they care about other people, and it's not just all about themselves. Like those Kardashians. Also, Larry King, man, rest in peace, Larry King. Just lost him the other day, and we don't know for sure, but he was in the hospital with complications from COVID, so we might have actually lost him to COVID, although he was very much up there in age. And I would say anyone who this one, didn't really hit me personally in the way that I was constantly looked up to Larry King, but I will say anyone who's worked in the broadcasting industry, the journalism industry, anyone who's been behind a microphone or in front of a camera knows about Larry King and has at least to an extent looked up to, admired Larry King and the way he was able to command the interview stage. He's really the number one guy that anyone can think of, and we really lost a legend this past week in Larry King. And it's sad. Again, he was in his 80s. Nowadays it's not real old, but it's he's getting up there. But it's still a very sad thing to see. And I spent a day just thinking about, as a kid, seeing Larry King and for me, being behind a microphone, as much as I have had my foray into marketing and film and everything else, that's really where my passion lies. And so when somebody as legendary as Larry King passes, it's definitely part of you kind of goes with it, and you're like, oh, okay, well, here we go. All right, a couple shows I want to talk about. Mr. Mayor. If you have not watched this show, it's on NBC. You can get it on Hulu. Mr. Mayor with Ted Danson, Bobby Moynihan. I think that's his name, and a couple of other characters that I've seen recently in shows, and then also some celeb cameos. David Spade's pretty darn funny, as well as Chrissy Teigen had me laughing with the last episode of Mr. Mayor. But if you haven't checked this one out, it's a great sitcom on NBC. I mean, who doesn't love Ted Danson? And it's a fun one. Highly recommend it. It's a laugh out loud. It is definitely a laugh out loud, funny sitcom. Check it out. I'm obsessed with it right now. I'm hoping it continues to go. Although we're gonna hit a pause in a lot of shows here that are filmed in Los Angeles, and that one in particular is filmed in Los Angeles because of the hiatus and everything else, and production's being shut down. So check out Mr. Mayor. And also, I've been sleeping on this one, but What We Do in the Shadows. Oh, so good. So good. If you have not checked that one out, check that one out. But I think the Go Tell Us the Wall fan base kind of very much crosses over with the What We Do in the Shadows fan base. So I think I'm probably behind even all the Wall fans out there on that one. But if you haven't checked out What We Do in the Shadows, I've been watching. That one's also on Hulu. I think it's an FX show, but they have the first 2 seasons. I think every episode that has aired so far, I believe, is on Hulu. So check that out. What We Do in the Shadows. So good. All right. On that note, we're way over time this week, man. It was a good time, though. Now I'm exhausted. I'm going to go watch that second football game. I'm going to go, hopefully Tom Brady didn't win, but maybe he did, and it is what it is. It's sports. Oh, man. I'm getting kind of tired of sports. It's just something it's like, see, I don't watch reality television, so I don't get super passionate about all the intricacies of sports. It's just sports games are my reality television, I think. That's the best way to look at it. All right, on that note, remember, 2 weeks from now, there will be no new episode. I'll remind everyone next week, but we will be back next week. Same wall place, same wall time. Don't forget, follow me on Instagram. SoCalSean is the at SoCalSean on Instagram. Also, Facebook.com/Go Tell It to the Wall, and YouTube. Head over to YouTube. Search Go Tell It to the Wall. Subscribe to our channel. Most importantly, SeanO'RourkeLive.com. Bookmark that one. Check back often for all kinds of great updates and important announcements around Go Tell It to the Wall. All right, on that note, this has been episode 33 of Common Sense Sundays with Go Tell It to the Wall. I am, of course, your absolute favorite podcast host, the one and only Sean O'Rourke. And remember, Wall fans, Common Sensors, podcast consumers, no matter what you do, no matter where you are, no matter who you're with, no matter why you are doing it, always use common sense.